When our children have their needs met, nutritionally, shelter, whatnot, showing up for them and being there for them, just being present is enough. Like, you're doing enough.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Alday Townsend, your host. This podcast is for doers, dreamers, and those trying to decide what's next. I, along with amazing guests, will be sharing stories of success, failure, and what's to come. Thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome to the Stroke It podcast. I'm Alday Townsend, your host. I'm so excited to be here with you today, along with my dear friend, Allison. She is a complete rock star, boss babe. She's totally rocking the Sun Coast. She took a leap of faith recently, started her own company, and she is expanding. She's growing. I'm so excited for her to be here to share her story with you. She is a therapist, and she has a lot of great value to offer, whether you are a parent, you are a friend, you are a CEO, and whether you're the CEO of a household or a business, you're going to really learn a lot today. So thank you so much for tuning in. Allison, thanks for being with me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So before we get into the conversation, I always love to ask my guest a little bit more about you. So like what season of life you're in and how you got to do the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, thanks. I have had the opportunity to work with nonprofits in the school system for almost 20 years. And that put me in a place where I kind of just fell into entrepreneurship. I never planned to work for myself, and it was super scary, but parents just kept asking me, can you see my child, or certain adults? And I just got to a point where I really wanted to do that. So I started building my practice right before COVID, and then things kind of fell off, and I started building it again about a year and a half ago. And now I'm completely working for myself, private practice. It's going really well, and I'm loving every minute of it.
And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Honestly, like just when, I remember how scared you were, and I was like, you're like,
Yeah.
I want to do this and and then like going 100% is really scary. Like giving up a salary, giving up that security,
Yes.
and saying, I'm just gonna go for it and see if it all works out, and it's working out for you, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so you have children?
I do. I have two boys, 12 and 13. I also went through a divorce during that time, so it was a lot at one time.
Yeah, that's a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Yay.
I'm choosing me.
Okay.
I'm choosing me first and making sure I show up for myself the way that I tell my clients to for themselves. I want to walk the walk, talk the talk.
Right.
And really kind of just be in a season of not recreating, but just showing up in a way that feels authentic and that makes sense for me, and that I'm getting everything I need, and showing my boys that it's possible to kind of live out your dreams. And it's busy, I'm not gonna lie, but it's going well. And I think them seeing a single mama working the way I do and trying to fulfill the dreams that they have is really working well so far.
Yeah. Well, being a great role model.
Yeah.
And sticking up for yourself and standing up for what you want, what you deserve, and creating the life that you want, not others dictating it for you because of circumstances and things like that as well.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And you're so bold and so strong too, which is so amazing. And
Thanks.
I'm excited to have the conversation. So let's first talk about yourself, because
Okay.
I know that a lot of the counseling that you're doing is talking about the individuals as themselves. Obviously, you're stepping into a role of entrepreneurship and really leaning with that. And I follow you on social, which is absolutely amazing. So if you don't follow Allison on social, definitely follow her under Roots Counseling.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you first, and then let's encourage listeners of what they can be doing. But let's talk about how you wake up, how you rock it, how do you manage it all, and actually where did the confidence come to actually change and say you're going to get divorced, or you're going to change your life, or start the business?
Yeah. A lot of my thinking happens in the shower.
Okay.
It's either singing or thinking, or maybe both. And the acoustics are great. I really love to sing. Singing and dancing is kind of my stress relief. But I would be in the shower and constantly thinking about how unhappy I was, and that it just didn't seem to be changing, even with the work I was doing on myself. When people ask if I read, since I was a teen, I always only read self-help.
Okay.
Only self-help books. I love, like your book. Amazing. So helpful to me. But I just was tired of feeling that way and knew I needed to change something. And when my, previous partner and I were not aligned with how to make those changes, I just felt like I had to kind of take a big step out. And, in a supportive way with my boys involved with our decision making, we went ahead and did that. And it was a healthy split, and it continues to be healthy co-parenting. I was lucky enough to see my parents go through the same thing. The reason I became a therapist has to do a lot with how I was raised and what I went through as a teen, which is why I really love working with teens.
Yeah.
I work with all ages, but I love to work with teens because I always say I wanted to be who I wish I had when I was that age. My parents and I went through my twin brother having a traumatic brain injury when I was in high school. So that is the catalyst really for the work that I do. And what really lights me up is just being a person that can be there for someone and they really feel like I'm present. It lights me up. It feels really good. And I love showing up for people that way. And, my parents did that for me. People in the hospital with my brother did that for me. And so it's had a lot to do with the work that I do.
That's amazing. So when you're in the shower, you're thinking about these things, you're thinking about that you're unhappy. How did you get the confidence to choose you over all the obligations and expectations of who you were?
That was not easy and nerve-wracking, but I think it was more appealing to feel safe and happy than not.
Right.
And so just kind of reaching out, building my community. I think partnership in our friendships, having like-minded women that are positive and that are doing what you're doing, entrepreneurs and supportive, that was huge. And I think you remember me sitting at Music Compound kind of like just in this space of, I just am not happy with the way my life is going, and so just taking baby steps. And that could be, reading a self-help book and starting the steps of what it looks like to start to go through a divorce and how is co-parenting going to look and your living situation. And then my business really was what helped me kind of make the jump finally, because honestly, financially, that's kind of what needed to happen for me to make that move.
Right. And when you were going to have extra time.
Yes.
You were going to have something that you needed to fill the void, or maybe when you're feeling sad. And
Yes.
a lot of times we just tend to put ourselves in work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it can help with the growth of the company as well. So when you're talking about singing and dancing, were you going or are you going to classes and incorporating that in your life to help with your
Absolutely.
happiness?
Yes.
What are some of those things? Because I'm just thinking, like, I know you love to dance, or like they want to be you and they want to walk out, not that they want to walk out of their marriage, but they want to walk out of this old life and create a new life. And that's scary and
Right.
it's risky as
Right.
well. So finding those communities can be really, really hard. But I'd love to know where some of these communities are that you have found and where you're hanging out.
Well, I used to love Latin dancing when I could stay up that late, but I just can't anymore. So in my previous life, my first job as a teen was in group fitness. And so I still taught until I had kids. And so the last certification I held was Zumba. And so last month I recertified.
Fantastic.
And I'll start teaching hopefully soon as I can memorize my choreography and music. But I want to say that doesn't need to be what people, you don't need to go be a fitness instructor.
Yeah.
And you also don't need to be partnered to go out dancing, right?
Right.
You also don't need to go out. I mean, my dancing happens in my kitchen. My boys think it's crazy and weird, but like that's okay, because I think when I wasn't dancing and I wasn't singing, that's when I knew that there was something missing in my life and it was just my happiness. Right. And so when we stop doing the things that make us feel alive, and that's what it does for me, then what I would do is I would go to a Zumba class, or maybe I would sign up for, I went to a partner dancing, one-on-one, did a few private lessons, and that would kind of get me back into it. And I think a lot of decisions can be made when you're doing the hobby that you love. Mm-hmm. And I really love somatic work. Yeah. And so for me, any way I could figure out how to dance in town helped me make those decisions. Like, okay, this is making me feel good. How do I get more of that?
100%. I always love to encourage people to do that. So there's a Zumba place right down the street from where I live. And I keep saying I want to go there and
great.
do it.
It's great.
Okay, is that where you're going to be going? Or
no, I'm hoping to be teaching. The gym I go to now is Jefferson Fit, which is a wonderful gym downtown.
Yeah.
So I kind of pitched it to him, and he's open to it. So hopefully down the road I'll be teaching Zumba there.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
But I know where you're talking about. Beth Golden, she's wonderful. It's a great community. They do cruises every year.
That's what I was
it's a lot of fun.
About. Like literally, it was like a cult. There's a whole community, and I mean, those ladies are lined up, waiting for the class and the doors to open.
Yes,
and
super
I was just
positive.
thinking, how amazing! Like if anyone's feeling down or depressed, and like maybe just going to a Zumba class would be amazing. And I know that you have a lot of friends, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about those relationships as well. But if you're scared, you're insecure, how do we get the confidence or how do we get the strength to go and show up at a place like that?
I think you just have to sign up and show up and not have expectations.
Okay.
You do not need to be a dancer to go to a Zumba class.
Yeah.
As a past instructor, I taught for 13 years before. I would tell everyone, like, as long as you're moving, you're doing it. You know, you don't need to know the steps. It's just a matter of community. And Beto, who develops Zumba, really talks about how it's a party and it really should feel like a party. And so if you are feeling depressed and low, the hardest part of getting out of that is showing up somewhere, right?
Okay.
And it's same with the gym. You know, I've worked out my entire life. I had I call her my Greek mom, someone who helped make me become who I am, a neighbor that really took me in. She got me into the fitness industry. And really the hardest part of showing up for yourself is just getting there, right? Like, keep the gym clothes and the shoes in your car. And so when you can do it, you go and you just, once you're there, it's easy, you know?
Right. I'm going to go to a Zumba class.
Yeah, you should.
For sure. So as you're talking and you're sharing your story, I'm thinking of friends, people I know, and I love like asking questions that I think that they would want to know.
Okay.
So as you're going through this season of changing your life, saying you're going to become happy, you're going to choose you're going to launch your business or like solo, quit your job, you're going to end your marriage and all of those things. Talk to me about the fear that you had or like the risk that was in front of you. How did you get through the negative chatter, maybe because you had self-doubt? Or did you not have self-doubt?
I had self-doubt.
Okay,
for
can we talk a
years.
little bit about that? 'Cause I
Yeah.
think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, the longest relationship we have is the one we have with ourselves.
Okay.
And so I think when you wake up and you have doubt about what you're doing, you know, how you're showing up for yourself and what your family looks like, if it's not comfortable, you know, changes need to be made. And so obviously in a partnership, both people have to be welcome to those changes. And if they're not, then you take another route, right? And so my self-doubt, really, when that happened, I find writing to be really cathartic and change. And I know that, you know, clinically speaking, it does the same thing as meditation. And so I either am grounding myself in meditation, and I mean guided meditations. I'm not doing it on my own. I love to find a meditation like on whatever you stream, Spotify or something that you like, and you listen to the same one every night. And then when you get up in the morning, kind of dumping. Like I did an Artist Way retreat with Christine Cassart, which was really had a lot to do with my choice to really leave and to choose me. And so it was writing, it was meditating, and then it was getting back to what makes me feel good.
Right.
And that had to do with the somatic work, like my body and you know, working out and eating clean and, you know, not making poor choices like some people. And for me, it's sugar or maybe alcohol, you know, really, really being clear about my choices on a daily basis. And like, is this going to serve me tomorrow?
Right.
Right. Is this going to be what makes me feel whole and complete and help with me moving forward? And if it doesn't serve me, then I just kind of put it on the table.
Right.
Yeah. Which is not easy.
No, it's not. Talking about the chatter in our mind.
Yeah. We all have it.
Yeah.
We all have cognitive distortions, right? And so I think noticing that it's there and being comfortable with being uncomfortable is really important.
Right.
I think when we make those choices, either, you know, for me, it was, you know, overeating or maybe, you know, having one more drink than you really should. It was because I wanted to quiet that chatter.
Right.
And so I'm not sure why, but I feel like our culture is really uncomfortable with big emotions, especially for women. We're not allowed to be angry. We're not allowed to be sad. We're not allowed to be assertive. You know, I've been called assertive many times. I have high expectations for myself, for my children, for my friends, my friendships. I meet those, and I want the people that I'm around to meet those as well.
Yeah.
So being comfortable with the uncomfortable is really important with that chatter, because the chatter is going to be there.
Right.
And so I teach for myself and for my clients, I teach us that like it's like a cloud, right? Okay. So these thoughts come into your mind and just notice the thought. You know, don't try to squash it. Don't try to push it down. Don't numb it with something unhealthy or healthy. It could be, you know, like working out too much, you know, reaching out and trying to solve other people's problems, right? And not thinking about yourself. Yeah. So just allowing that to really float by like a cloud. You could even make it into a cloud animal, but it's there. They're going to come. Right. We need to just be aware and allow them to come.
Right. And then how are you teaching your clients to like redirect and like let it go, but like not hold on to it?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many fun techniques. I think one of them, there's thought stopping, where you literally see a stop sign in your mind, and then you replace if it's a negative thought with a positive. So for example, I might be, and I did this when I was going through my separation, where I would actually, you can take Sharpie on your mirror, your bathroom mirror, it'll come right off, and you can write the mantra that's the opposite of the negative thing that's coming to you. So for example, it could be like, I'm so ugly. And so on my mirror, I would write, I'm beautiful, right? Or I am not worth it. And so I would write, I'm worthy. And you look at these every day, because neuroplasticity is amazing. Like, we used to think that only children could regrow and retrain their brain, but we know that you can do that until you're 108 years old. So neuroplasticity has to do with, changing those thoughts, thought stopping, and replacing it with a positive. And I mean, I saw this Olympian, I wish I could remember what her name was, but she said, we can literally train our brain to think the way we want it to. And it's true. And that is amazing. It's brilliant.
Yeah. There's actually a book that's called Train Your Brain.
Yes. Yeah.
That I'm a big fan of. Okay. Could you give us another example? I love that these like tips that we can actually implement into our lives. What's another one of redirecting those negative thoughts or redirecting those emotions and things like that?
So I work with Teen Court. It's an amazing nonprofit in town. And I work with teen girls. I do their peer circles. And the girls they're so funny when I teach them these. But just last night, I taught them to put one hand under your armpit and the other hand over your shoulder and squeeze as hard as you can, inhaling through your nose, pausing at the top, and then exhaling out your mouth, which is a somatic hug. It has some acupressure involved. Things like that, if you did it properly, you might be a little dizzy. But these exercises, progressive muscle relaxation, where you're squeezing and releasing, starting at your feet all the way up your body, these are things before an exam, before this podcast. I'm sitting there using these techniques before going on stage, right? Yeah. Before meeting with a boss and maybe asking for more money, something like that. These are things somatically we can do to calm our nervous system.
So I do those before I go to sleep. So my husband, he is now into meditation, which I absolutely love.
Nice.
So like, So his favorite is Jason Stevenson. I don't know if you're familiar with Jason Stevenson. So he does all these guided meditations. And the one that I love is like the tensing and letting go.
Yes.
Holding it and then letting it go as
really
well.
Powerful.
So powerful. And even just like the breath work. I went into this like cold plunge thing on 41. I forget what it's called, which I'm not a fan of getting into a cold plunge with other people that were just in it. So I did it once and I was like, this is not for me. I'm sure they have a great filtration system and everyone tells me all about it, that it's totally safe. But I was like, I just can't get back in that same water. But 30 minutes before you get into the water is all about breath work. And I forget the breath work that they use there, but it's amazing. Just your breath and holding and breathing, how much that can change how you feel.
We forget. I tell people, watch a baby if you have access to a baby or an animal. Watch how they breathe and watch what they do every time they move. They're breathing with their bellies. We breathe with our diaphragms.
Yeah.
We need belly breath. They also stretch before they do anything. Right. Anytime they move into a different space, they're stretching. And we forget that, it's so important to stretch and breathe.
100%. So love the stretching comment. So I make sure to stretch every day. Have you seen the show The Blue Zones?
No.
Okay. So there's this, I think it was on Netflix. I forget. It's a whole series about the Blue Zones and how these people live to like 100 years of age with no medication. They're completely happy. They're able to talk. They're able to move without canes, without walkers. And it has to do a lot with like being surrounded by family and friends.
Nice.
Also what they're eating, their daily activities. So whether they're working in the fields, they're walking a lot, they're moving. Music was another way that kept them young at heart, which obviously I love. But then also it was about even just getting on the floor and stretching. So a lot of times, like as we age, we just end up sitting in chairs at desks. And a lot of people don't actually get on the floor and roll around. So I mean, when you fall at an old age, you're not able to use that strength in those muscles because you haven't trained since you were a kid doing that. So I love getting on the floor. We've actually had a couple meetings where we all just get on the floor.
Oh, I love that.
So, and they're all like, wait, what are we doing? I'm like, we're going to sit on the floor today, like laptops and all.
Yeah.
But creating that movement too moves the energy within ours. So your practice seems very, very holistic and it just seems like non-traditional as well. So, and you're working mainly with teens, but do you work with women?
I do.
Okay.
I say 9 to 99 because right now my youngest client, who is brilliant. And I work with a lot of people with autism, is 10 years old.
Okay.
And then my oldest is in her 70s.
Okay.
So I love teens, but I work with everybody.
So
I like to be a generalist practice. I don't want to have one niche.
Right. So I feel like with counseling, everybody I feel like could benefit from it.
Absolutely.
And I think as we age, we have more stress and we have more things. And it's like, we finally get together with a friend and it's like diarrhea of the mouth. And it's like
trauma dumping sometimes.
Yeah, where it's like, I don't want to go out to dinner with you.
Yeah.
Like if we're going to do something that's going to involve some type of activity where I don't have to sit and listen to all of that, right? But I think sometimes people are like, I don't need a therapist. I don't need counselors. So if you could encourage anyone to call you or even somebody else to seek just a sounding board, can you talk about the benefits of counseling for adults?
Absolutely.
Even if there's not trauma and they're not even unhealthy, but like the benefits of it.
I mean, I have some very healthy clients, meaning there's not any huge life, change or something going on that come because they realize having a sounding board that's non-judgmental, not a family member, not a friend, legally, HIPAA compliant, not going to share any of this. It's a small town, and knowing that if we see each other in public, I'm not going to say hello to you unless you say hi to me because, it's just respect over privacy. But just to have someone where you can come in and have a sounding board, talk about what's going on in your life, talk about cognitive distortions, overthinking, making decisions. It's just so healthy. I was lucky enough to start therapy when my brother was sick, as a teenager. And so for years, it's been a part of my life. And I've always found it to be beneficial, even if nothing big was going on.
Right. I want to encourage you to get my book, The Stroke It Guide, available on Amazon and my website. The book is what you need to know from the boardroom to the bedroom. It talks about how to stroke yourself, your spouse, your partner, your friends, your family, most importantly, your employer, employees. And of course, there's a chapter just for the bedroom. Go to Amazon today and get my book, The Stroke It Guide. How do we suggest you to friends where it's like where they're not offended?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, I don't find it offensive, but I guess people could say, have you talked to someone about that?
Right.
And if they say, well, yeah, I'm talking to you. No, like a professional,
right?
Where you can really put it all out there.
I feel like you have so many tools to offer as well. Whereas, number one, I'm not a therapist. Yes, I can be a great friend and I can listen. Yeah. But even when I was going through all the stuff that I was going through years ago with my husband, I had to stop talking to my friends. They didn't want to listen to it anymore, right? And that's where I was seeking counseling and support and all that stuff. But even going through back to your comment about the writing, how therapeutic that can be, like to get things off your chest.
And sometimes the writing brings up more. And I actually have a handful of clients that bring their journal to therapy and just read out of their journal. And it's and just to have someone, can you imagine having someone listen to you read, your thoughts or first thing in the morning or things you're going through, and then kind of, I'm not going to give an opinion, but I'm going to give, active listening and support and then ask more about those things. It's just a really cool way to kind of think about what you're thinking about.
Right. 100%. And they're probably very authentic and transparent and honest in those writings.
Right.
So I want to segue into intimacy when it comes to relationships and being intentional, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a friend, whether it's children. So can we go there?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about this topic and why you're passionate about talking about it. Because I think that a lot of us could benefit from hearing about how being intentional and being specific and, I feel like we try to be all the things to all the people sometimes, but maybe just being simpler and more intentional with our time and our words and our people.
I wrote down something. I'm in a season of being intentional about partnership, thinking about what makes relationships healthy beyond chemistry. And this is where, for me, somatic work comes in. How do I feel around people? How do those people make me feel? How do I, think I make them feel? And what do I want out of my relationships? It could be in the future, maybe an intimate relationship or my friendships, but just being intentional in those ways and being proactive. And I liked your example of not just dumping every time you see friends, of showing up for people. And just, I love to be around people that light me up.
Yeah. So when you think about being intentional, are you thinking about your values, your desires, your goals, and then making sure you align with those individuals? Is that what you're talking about?
And nervous system compatibility.
Okay, so can you break that down for us?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you are spending time with someone and I call them energy vampires. I
Yes.
don't mean to be rude, but and you feel like when you're done, right? When you're done meeting.
They've exhausted you.
Yes. And
Yeah.
you haven't felt heard and you haven't felt like you could share. That's an intentional relationship that I'm probably not going to, like you said, we might do things together. Like there might be activities.
Yeah.
None of my friends are like, oh, you're only planning to go see shows or movies with me. Are you not getting something out of this relationship? Maybe, maybe not. But just being intentional about how you feel, you know,
Right.
and your consciousness, like being aware.
Yeah. So is there a way to have the conversation with a friend when you're talking about intentionality and you're talking about planning time with where you're wanting it to be together and be positive, where it's not all about them and it's not all about you, where it's positive?
I think I'm so blessed to have such great friends.
Me too.
I say that, but I think that we have that because we've done the work.
Okay. So if there is, so courage is involved when we're having these conversations with individuals of like, hey, this is how I feel. This is, I mean, do you even say that's how you feel? Like,
Yes.
okay.
Because I statements are really important.
Yeah. Okay.
So that people do not become defensive.
Okay.
You is never going to work.
100%.
Right?
Right.
And so, you know, it seems simple, but active listening is really difficult. So
Right.
another thing that you can model in your relationships if you feel like you're not getting what you're putting out is active listening. So you say to me, I've, you know, had a really difficult day. And I say back to you, it sounds like you had a difficult day. That is so silly, but doesn't that feel so good for someone to just repeat what you said? You don't even have to give an opinion. It's like, did I hear that right? Right. So active listening seems so simple. And when I teach it, maybe to couples that I work more with parents, but you know, they were like, oh, I do that. And I say, okay, let's do it together now. Let's let me see it. And they don't.
Yeah.
They give their opinion or they say, you know, I feel, no, it's just repeat what the person said. Did I get that right? Is there anything else?
Right.
Those three things can build a connection. And when you model that for someone, I feel, will start to do that for you as well.
Right. Well, you're also validating them too. And a lot of people just want to be heard and they want to be validated.
Yeah.
Just reminds me of this morning, my husband. So my husband doesn't usually sleep well overnight. And it's like, I didn't sleep well, or I didn't sleep. I'm like, yeah, I saw you go at the couch at 4:30. Like, because I was up at 4:30 and I'm on my computer by 5 o'clock because I cannot go back to sleep now. But he was like, no, I had back spasms and I was tossing and turning all night and I snore. So he's always like, you never listen to me about and I don't sleep. And I'm like, oh, so I'm going to just model this and be like, I repeat what he did not sleep last night. I'm not going to say yes. Oh, I heard you got up or like make excuses because okay, thank you for teaching me that.
See how it goes.
Yeah. And that's one thing. So I used to be a horrible listener. Like I'm better now, but I still am thinking about, I mean, with podcasting, I have to listen. So it's training me to be a better listener. But I'd always be thinking like, oh, okay, what they're saying. Oh, I have a comment about that. And I wasn't listening with intention as well. And there was so many things that I missed out on. And I realized that a lot of my friends stopped hanging out with me because I never listened. I was always the one talking or like, and I had a lot to talk about. I was doing a lot of things. I was super excited. I was super passionate.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of them were just in mediocre jobs, not happy, not doing things. So they didn't have much to talk about. This is what my thought process was. But they really did have things to talk about. I just never knew because I never listened to them.
Right.
So,
I'm guilty of the same.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's really hard.
So, I have to definitely be intentional and provide the space to listen and to validate because I think a lot of times people just never felt heard when they hung out with me, right? And now, like, I work so hard to make sure I validate and hear people as well. I was going to talk about the intentionality with children as well because
That's exactly what I was thinking of because I'm guilty with my own children and I was listening to what you're saying, but I'm also thinking, I need to be more intentional with them because I'm trying to solve the problems or I'm thinking about what's the right thing to say or the wrong thing to say. And then sometimes, I let my emotions get the best of me. And, I think anyone in the work that we do, like, oh, a therapist that works with teens, I should be so wonderful at home as a mom. And I'm not. We all make mistakes. The repair is what's most important, right? So I raise my voice. I need to come back and say, that was not appropriate. I should not have spoken that way, and not have an excuse. Like, that's it. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoken to you that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, and this can happen with friends, it can happen with spouses as well, that someone brings something to us and we go back into solution mode. Oh, let me fix this. Let me help you. Oh, I got the wisdom. I got the tools versus just listening to them with intention to understand and then validating them can be so hard.
Yep.
Especially for parents, because you don't want your children to get hurt. You don't want them to make mistakes. I mean, I wish that all of us would listen to our mothers, but we never did.
Yeah.
I had to tell my mom so many times in my 20s, you were right.
Yep.
I still have to tell her she's right. And it pains me.
Yeah.
We don't want to listen. But are there any strategies or tools that parents can utilize to really listen to their students and be intentional, even with their time with their kids, right? I see a lot of families with the parents are on the phone at dinner, and it's like they get upset their kids are on the phone, but they're mirroring that same, or that modeling that same behavior at dinner. So what are some tools or some tips that parents can be really intentional with their children?
Well, that's a huge one. Is
Okay.
if you are having issues with phones or devices, you have to get off your device.
Right.
And I'm guilty of that as well. I think we get into this doom scrolling mode, or we're still working. You have to have a cutoff, especially as an entrepreneur. You cannot continue to work 24/7. It's not showing appropriate boundaries. You're going to be exhausted. You know, I've had many people ask me to work on the weekends, and I'm like, I do not work on Saturdays and Sundays,
No.
and I will not. And I usually won't even open my computer.
Right.
The other thing that I think is a great tool, another strategy to work with couples, but it works really well with kids, is to ask your child when they're talking to you, do you want me to listen to just hear you, or do you want me to respond?
Yes.
And they're never going to want you to respond. And you need to swallow that, sit on your hands, hold your breath. But, when you listen to respond, they're going to stop coming to you when they're tweens and teens, because they already know
And that's
how
at a
you
time that
feel.
you want them to come and talk to you.
Yes.
And share their struggles as well. So can we talk a little bit about shame and judgment with parents?
Sure.
Because I obviously work with a lot of children and I have a lot of families as well. And one thing we don't allow is for parents to come into the lessons all the time. We do allow it once a month. And the reason we stopped allowing parents in there is because there was a lot of judgment within that lesson, where it's like they're eyeing every single thing the kid does, and the kid gets in the car and they're like, you weren't doing this right and you weren't doing this, instead of allowing the kid to understand what they need to do, or even like creating that relationship with the parent or with the teacher. And there's this level of expectations, and I understand we all want our children to grow up and we want them to be successful, but I do feel like a lot of the expectations that parents have on the kids does create a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. And they want their kids to be something that their kids maybe do not want to be as well. Now, that's a lot of things that I'm saying. And that's a lot of them, right? Mm-hmm. How can we help parents with judgment, with shame and expectations?
The first thing I would say is, before you have a criticism, you need to give at least 2 positives.
Okay.
You did this really well. I saw you trying really hard.
Right.
Maybe you could do this differently next time.
Yeah.
If they're open to that.
Right.
Our kids already know how we feel about everything.
Right.
We've conditioned them to know in our reactions, in our bodies, and in our words what we expect and how we feel. You don't need to continue to say it over and over and over again, right?
Right.
So I love that you don't allow parents in the room. And I think that it's important for, the student and their teacher to kind of have that. It's like what I do with my clients that are kids, like have that relationship, build that rapport, and then allow the parent to come in and see what you all are working on together.
Right.
And hopefully the parent is saying, wow, you're working so hard, and to the teacher, I love the rapport and relationship that you've built. And then maybe have a question for the teacher instead of a criticism for the child.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we do the show and tells, and it's all about like showing parents what we're working on. Hey, this could be something they can play at home or practice at home. And this is how you can support your musician at home.
Yeah.
And not every parent comes to the backstage tours, and not every teacher does it exactly the same way. But we want them to support them at home as well. But I had this kid who did a video and was like all about performing. And he's like, don't worry about what your parents think. They'll be proud of you. Just get on stage. And my heart was like, oh my God. A lot of them probably just feared the judgment from their parents as well. How do we reduce that, or what can we encourage parents to do to reduce that stress, that pressure?
That's a tough one. I think of the majority of the kiddos I work with, when we talk about love languages, which I'm sure many of you are aware, are words of affirmation. Yeah. And so they are not, or time, spending time with. Right. So they need to hear you're proud of them, even if you think they know it. They need to see you, light up when you see them. They also need to hear, I love this tactic. It works so well with any age. You need to gossip about them in earshot. And I mean good gossip. Yeah. I mean, I have the best teen, right? Yeah. Or, you're here and I'm saying, to someone over here, you should have seen Jenny the other day. She was just amazing with how she handled this situation, or she always is on top of her homework. Make sure that, when you do this, if you're struggling in your relationship with your child, if you gossip about them in earshot, you can even make a fake phone call if you can't do it.
That's what I was just thinking.
Get on your phone or be in your car and be
Yeah.
and then you could even be funny, be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even know you're in the car, but
Right.
that's huge.
I love that so much. What's interesting is, so my mom, she's raising my niece. My sister has 2 daughters, and one of them lives with her. And my mom will say things like, I don't know what I did to deserve that. I've got to raise a teenager in my 60s. Or like, she'll be like, oh my gosh, I could be traveling, but now I'm dealing with this high school. Like the things she says, I'm always like, is she there?
Yeah.
Oh no, she's in her room sleeping. I'm thinking she could be coming down. And I understand, I validate my mom's feelings and I completely understand what she's talking about. But I think you're so right. Like having those like fake conversations, which is positive or negative.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know she needs to voice, and she wants me to listen, and she wants to be able to complain and things like that.
She should go to a therapist.
Well, they are doing group counseling as well. So I just think that parents, I can't imagine how hard of a job it is, and trying to like grow these humans into amazing
It's the hardest
people.
job in the world.
And then you want to protect them. Then it's like you don't want them to fail, but so much learning comes into failure as well. Could you say anything that would just give them hope, or like tell them they're doing a great job?
I mean, I am trained as a circle of security facilitator, which is a court approved, for families that lose their children, and then to get them back, they go through this program. It's wonderful. And they say that you only have to show up 30% of the time to be a great parent.
30% of the time? No way.
Isn't that insane?
That's insane.
And so anything over that is above and beyond. And so when our children have their needs met, nutritionally, shelter, whatnot, showing up for them and being there for them, just being present is enough. Like you're doing enough. And so people are so hard on themselves, myself included, where, we feel like we need to be doing so much and teaching so much and just this verbal, like the kids would say, just verbal diarrhea. Like, I don't need to hear any more from you. Just showing up, being present, being in the car and allowing there to be space for silence, not asking, how was your day? What did you do? In therapy, I always tell my parents, try not to say, how was your session? Did you like her? What did you talk about? Because allow them to process. Allow them to come to you. Just being there and being, someone that is literally just physically there is huge,
I feel like we could all use that in all spaces, in all aspects of our life.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm definitely like a question person. Like, I just want to know.
Yeah.
That's actually my word for the year is question.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Mine is peace.
Oh, is it really?
Yes, peace.
Have you always picked a word?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've picked words for like 4 or 5 years.
Last year it was balance, and I definitely had that.
Yeah. How are you finding balance?
Well, I would love to plug Ryan Weston.
Okay.
Is an amazing yogi in town. He also teaches at the circus. I'm finding literal balance in his class because he teaches yoga at Jefferson Fit and many other places. I also find it in making sure my weekends are not completely packed.
Right.
It's hard with children that are in all the
football.
sports, and yes. But I also feel it's really important to connect with my friends.
Yeah.
And so I try to see them in person, once or twice a month. And if not, my mom did an incredible job of forcing me to write thank you cards growing up. I hated it. But to this day, I will write, and you've done this. I've received one from you, and it made me feel so good. I write probably 2 or 3 a month.
Yep.
I should do more.
Yeah.
And it could just be thank you for being my friend. Thank you for showing up for me. Thank you for being you. In my business, I send thank you cards and Starbucks gift cards for referrals because I think it's important to kind of just literally acknowledge, but in the mail is so much better than a text, right?
100%.
It's so much better even than a phone call. Like you take the time to actually sit down and write something to someone. So that helps me feel balanced. It helps me in just knowing that I am showing up for the people that are important to me.
And giving that gratitude. I feel like when you live in this like mindset of gratitude, you have more abundance.
Absolutely.
I just had a conversation with a team member this morning, and I was asking her about something, and it was like, oh, I'm just not feeling really good. I'm feeling depressed. And I was like, would focusing on gratitude make you feel any better?
Mm-hmm.
And I just listed some things that I know that are really great in her life. And she went back, thank you so much. I needed this great reminder. And my husband, actually his word for the year is gratitude. And he was very much focusing on all the things he didn't have. and what could have been better, or things, just living in the past. And I will say that gratitude being on the forefront of the mindset has been really, 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 really powerful.
Right.
I just love it. I love it for him. I love it for us. I don't know. I love just gratitude and creating the balance as well. And it's really hard to find balance at
Really
times,
hard.
like with the business, with kids, and all the other things as well. And I love that you're creating time with friends. That's my favorite thing to do. I was just having happy hour with my girlfriends. Florence and the Spice Boys. Have you been there?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love that place. Was there Tuesday. And my one friend, Lana, was like, I'm just so glad that I have a group of friends that I can just show up at a table authentically. I can come in sneakers. I can come in a sweater. Yeah, I have makeup on, but I could have shown up without makeup, and just have connection. And we talked about books. We talked about podcasts. We talked about where we're traveling, like so much positivity as well. And it was just like, okay, when are we doing it again? So we're going to actually do a Farms. Have you heard of this place in Ellington? Flower picking, live music, all kinds of cool stuff. So if you're looking for a cool place to take the kids, or even just some friends, I would check it out.
Love it.
Okay, so we have to wrap up. We're at our time, which obviously we could sit here and talk forever. If there was one thing that you can leave our listeners with today, whether they implement into their daily schedule, their life, or their mindset shift, if there was one thing that you could leave them with, what would be the piece of advice you would give them?
And I wrote this one down too.
Okay.
Because it's important. When our relationship with ourselves becomes safer, every relationship around us changes. I'm going to say it again. When our relationship with ourselves becomes safer, every relationship around us changes. And so whatever safe looks like for you is and happy is super important, and will bring abundance, whatever you're wanting to create and manifest. When you feel safe and happy, the world is your oyster.
Yes. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So before we go, I want you to tell our listeners, how can they connect with you?
Thank you.
I think I mentioned your company at the very beginning, but mention your company name again.
Rootsfamilycounseling.com is my website. I'm on social as Roots Family Counseling. I will have upcoming book that I've been writing for a decade called Becoming a Helper. Probably. I'm also going to start a coaching program. So Roots Family Coaching will be on the horizon. But right now, rootsfamilycounseling.com, and then on Insta and Facebook and LinkedIn.
Awesome. And once again, you serve all ages.
All ages, yes. I'm located very centrally.
Okay.
I'm above Michael's on East. And I would be honored to help people in whatever way.
And do you do virtual meetings?
I do. I don't love them.
Okay.
But I do, because I see people in different parts of the state.
Okay.
And I work with some adults with autism that find it a little easier to be at home.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for
Thank
being here
you.
today. I really appreciate it. Thanks you all for tuning in. I'm really hoping that this conversation resonated with you. If you did, or 5 of your friends or people that could benefit from today's episode, I want to encourage you to hit share and send this via text to 5 of your friends. Allison and I would be so grateful. If you loved the content, feel free to give us a 5-star review. Once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Roots Family Counseling, Allison Henley was my guest today, and we're wishing you a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to today's podcast. I want to inspire you to send this podcast to 5 of your friends that you think would benefit.